and welcome back to the YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, welcome to the YouTube channel. Today is a very exciting day because I am launching this new pattern, the Kaya sweater scarf pattern. The full pattern is free in this video, so keep watching. In the caption, you'll find a link to the kit for this sweater scarf from Quince Co. You'll find a link to download the PDF if you prefer a PDF version, and you will also find the link to my other YouTube video where I explain 12 different ways to wear a sweater scarf. Great news for beginner crocheters, this is an adventurous, beginner-friendly pattern. There are a couple of little tricky spots, but hopefully the video will help you and we can walk through it together. This pattern comes in 3 hybrid sizes covering all 9 of the Craft Yarn Council women's bust measurements. These are the sizes, and here's what you'll need to make each size. This sweater scarf features my favorite ribbing on the cuffs. It's a slip stitch and half double crochet back loops only. And through the body, we've got these beautiful eyelets that create a nice diamond shaped pattern throughout. Get your DK weight yarn ready and your hooks ready, and let's get crocheting.
Make sure you like and subscribe for future educational crochet content. Notes: sizes are written as 1, open bracket 2, 3. The chains at the beginning of rows do not count as stitches throughout, and therefore you do not work in the top of the turning chains throughout. You may need to use 2 different hook sizes for each of the gauges. Use whichever hook gets you the accurate blocked gauge, and stitch counts are only listed when they change. So, this is some bad news for you if you don't like to gauge. There are 2 different gauge swatches in this pattern, the body and the cuff. Using a 3.25mm hook or the hooks to achieve each gauge, you'll want to get 22 stitches and 11 rows of double crochet worked flat and blocked. You can choose to do the diamond stitching or not for your swatch. For the cuff gauge, you want 20 stitches and 22 rows of alternating half double crochet and slip stitch in the back loop only. All right, let's begin. Grab your hook that you got the cuff gauge with, and foundation half double crochet the number of stitches for your size. For row 2, you're going to chain 1 and slip stitch in the back loop only across. Make sure you are not working into the top of that turning chain, and rather just into the top of that first half double crochet. For row 3, chain 2 and turn, and then you're going to half double crochet in the back loop only across. Make sure you're working in the back loop of the slip stitches. For rows 4 to 41, 45, 51, repeat alternating rows 2 and 3. Now it's time to seam the cuff. Row 42, 46, 52, chain 1 and rotate your work. For this row, you are going to slip stitch through the front loop of the bottom of the foundation half double crochets from row 1 and the back loop of the last row up the entire cuff. So there I'm working into the front loop, and on the other side I'm working into the back loop. You yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook. And I'll show that again through the front loop of the first row and through the back loop of the last row. front loop, back loop. Now it's time to work the body. You'll want to get the hook that you use to obtain the body gauge if that is different from the hook that you use to get the cuff gauge. Row 1, you're going to chain 2 and rotate your work so that the cuff is pointed towards you. And here you will just work 1 double crochet into the side of each row of the cuff. So 1 double crochet into the side of that half double crochet and 1 into the slip stitch row, all the way around, including into the slip stitch row that you use to seam the cuff. At the end of this row, you should have a total of 42, 46, 52 stitches. For row 2, you're going to chain 2 and turn. You will work 2 double crochet into each stitch across. It's important to not slip stitch together row 1, I forgot to mention that, and each row of the body. So 2 double crochet into each stitch across. Size 2, you're going to work 3 double crochets into the last stitch, and sizes 1 and 3, you're just going to work 1 double crochet into the last stitch. So I've done a size 1 here with 1 stitch in the end. Row 3 begins the diamond pattern, so you're going to chain 2 and turn. Double crochet into the first stitch, chain 1 and skip the next stitch. Then you're going to double crochet 9. So you've created the first eyelet there. At the end of the 9 double crochets, you're going to chain 1 and skip 1 again, creating another eyelet. These eyelets make the first point at the bottom of the first set of diamonds. And you'll just repeat this pattern all the way across. When you have 2 stitches left, you'll chain 1 and skip 1 and just double crochet into that last stitch. For row 4, you're going to chain 2 and turn your work. We'll double crochet into the first stitch and into the chain 1 space. You'll then chain 1 and skip 1, moving that eyelet 1 stitch further in. This time you'll work a total of 7 double crochets between the eyelets. There's 1 double crochet. Let's do 6 more. You should now be 1 stitch away from that eyelet in the previous row. Chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into that eyelet, and then chain 1 and skip 1 again. This forms the bottom of the V in the diamond, and you're just going to repeat this across the row. When you have 2 stitches remaining or 3 stitches remaining, chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into that chain 1 space, and because the repeat would end on a chain 1, you're just going to double crochet into that last stitch. For row 5, chain 2 and turn. Double crochet into each of those first 2 stitches, double crochet into that chain 1 space, chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet into each of the next 5 stitches this time. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the chain 1 space, double crochet into that lone double crochet from the previous row, and double crochet into the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip 1, and repeat this across the row until 1 stitch remains. So here's the end of the row for you, so you can see you work that double crochet into the chain 1 space, and then a double crochet into each of those last 2 stitches at the end. For row 6, you're going to chain 2 and turn, and you should start to see the pattern emerging now. You're going to double crochet up to and into that first chain 1 space, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches this time, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into that chain 1 space, and then double crochet all the way across to the next chain 1 space, and you repeat this across the entire row. For row 7, you're going to chain 2 and turn, double crochet in each stitch across to the first chain 1 space, and double crochet into that chain 1 space, chain 1, skip 1, chain 1, skip 1 again, double crocheting into that chain 1 space, and then double crochet into each of those stitches between the chain 1 spaces, double crochet into the chain 1 space, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the center, chain 1, skip 1, and repeat this across the row. For row 8, you're going to chain 2 and turn. This row will make the point at the top of the first V. So double crochet across 2 and into that first chain 1 space. Chain 1, skipping over that lone double crochet, and then double crocheting into the next chain 1 space. And double crochet across 2 and into the next eyelet, following this pattern across the full row. And here you can see the first half of the repeat is done, where the eyelets are slowly progressing closer and closer together and creating a point in the center. Now the next section, the eyelets will go outwards. So for row 9, chain 2 and turn. You're going to double crochet across till 1 stitch before that eyelet. Then you will chain 1, skip that double crochet, and double crochet into the chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet across until you're 1 stitch before the next eyelet. So I'll show you that again. Chain 1, double crochet into that chain 1 space, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the following stitch, and repeat this across the row. For row 10, you're going to chain 2 and turn. And double crochet across until 1 stitch before the first eyelet. Chain 1, double crochet into that chain 1 space, double crochet into that center double crochet, and double crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and skip 1. And then you'll double crochet across until 1 stitch before that next chain 1 space, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the chain 1 space, into that center double crochet, and into the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip 1, and repeat this across the entire row. For row 11, chain 2 and turn. Double crochet until 1 stitch before the first eyelet. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into that eyelet, double crochet into each of those double crochets in the center between the 2 eyelets, double crochet into that chain 1 space, chain 1, skip 1, and repeat this across the row. For row 12, chain 2 and turn your work. Double crochet into the first 2 stitches, chain 1, skip 1, work into that chain 1 space, double crochet into each stitch across to the next chain 1 space, and double crochet into that chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. And again, you'll repeat this across the row. Now, row 13 is the last row in the repeat. You begin by chaining 2 and turning your work. Double crochet 1, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 9, so into that chain 1 space, and then each double crochet across, and then into the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip 1, and you've now created the top point of the diamond. Repeat this across the entire row. Now, for the remainder of the body, you are just going to be repeating that same diamond pattern. For rows 14 through 183, 203, and 233, you repeat rows 4 through 13 until you reach the row count for your size. For size 2 only, you need to double crochet 2 together anywhere in that last row. Row 184, 204, 234, chain 2, turn. Double crochet 2 together across this entire row. Sizes 1 and 3 only, you work a single double crochet into that last stitch. Row 185, 205, 235, chain 2 and turn. Double crochet into each stitch across. Now, this is the trickiest part of the pattern. If this is too challenging for you, you can just recreate the first cuff, fasten off after you've seamed it, and just seam it to the end of the body of the scarf here. You do not need to do this as you go. So, using the hook used to obtain the cuff gauge, chain 1 and turn your work. Slip stitch into the first 2 stitches of the last row of the body. Then you're going to rotate your work. It's a lot of scarf to rotate, I know. Now you're going to foundation half double crochet off the end of the scarf. So you want to pull up the bottom of the foundation half double crochet through the last stitch of the last row. See the bottom loop there? 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over and just pull through the 1 like you do for a foundation stitch, then yarn over and pull through all 3. That's 1 foundation half double crochet created. And then do the same. It's a little bit finicky, it's okay. And there I've completed 2 foundation half double crochets. You're going to want to do 68, 72, or 76, depending on your size. And this is what it should look like. For row 2, you're going to chain 1 and turn. Then just like for the first cuff, you're going to slip stitch back loops only in each stitch across the cuff, working back towards the body. When you reach the body, that last stitch can be a little tricky to find. There it is. You're going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches of the body. So you can see I've worked into those 2 stitches already, and I'm going to work into those next 2 stitches. So you slip stitch into the next stitch, and then slip stitch 1 more. Now, when you turn your work here, turn it the opposite way that you normally do so that your working yarn ends up in the front. Just push it through to the back. This makes it easier to find your stitches when you come back in the next slip stitch row. This row, without chaining, you're just going to skip over those 2 slip stitches you put into the body and half double crochet in the back loops only across the previous row. For rows 4 through 41, 45, 51, you just repeat alternating those 2 rows for the cuff. And now we're going to seam the cuff. So chain 1 and rotate your work. Just like for the first cuff, we're going to work through the front loop of the bottom of the foundation half double crochets from row 1 and the back loop of the last row up the entire cuff. There's through the front loop, there's through the back loop, yarn over, and pull through all the loops on your hook. I'll show that again. Through the front loop, through the back loop, yarn over, and pull through all the loops on your hook. One more time. Front loop, back loop, yarn over, and pull through all the loops on your hook, and do that across to the body. Now, do not fasten off when you've finished the seam. We're going to clean up the edges along the whole length of the body of the scarf, and we'll do the trim in single crochet. So, continuing from the seam, work approximately 3 single crochets per 2 rows of double crochet along the full length of the body of the scarf. The actual placement of your stitches is not super important as long as the fabric is not puckering or pulling from these single crochets along the edge. At the end of side 1, you're going to just slip stitch into the center, kind of where the seam is on the cuff, on the first cuff, I should say. And then again, not fastening off, just continuing on. You're going to work the same style of trim up the other side of the scarf. 3 single crochets per 2 rows of double crochet along the other side. And again, when you reach the end, you'll just slip stitch kind of into where the seam is. And now it's time to fasten off. You're done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you love your Kaya sweater scarf. Be sure to like and subscribe for more educational crochet content and hopefully some more free patterns in the future. And if you need help learning how to wear your crochet sweater scarf, there's a link to my other video of 12 ways to wear your sweater scarf in the caption below. Take care.